Hey, everybody, I see you. You're an artist on record. This is your ultimate intimate conversation with your favorite artist. Now, if you want to see more episodes uncut, unedited, check us out on Patreon. We have a VIP all backstage access pass there that will unlock all this great stuff for you. And plus, don't forget, the first Saturday of each month, we have the Vinyl Game Showdown. If you want to be in the games, go to adikalive.com. That's www.adikalive.com and contact us there. Make sure you give us your Venmo information and all your good information. But most importantly, you have to be subscribed to both channels, Artist on Record, ADIKA Live, and ADIKA Live on YouTube. Now, our next guest is the legendary Don McLean. You might know him for his big song, American Pie. It's one of the longest songs that you ever heard, but it's one of the greatest songs you ever heard. Now, everybody, the day the music died, American Pie. The song's written about Richie Valens, Big Bopper, Buddy Holly. It was a little boy riding his bicycle as a newspaper boy. And he lost these rock stars that were his superheroes. Well, he wrote one of the top hit songs out there, and it's a long song, a lot of lyrics. But what do those lyrics mean? Well, we're going to go back in time with Corey and Miranda, our co-hosts on ADIKA Live, and we're going to see the questions that we feed out to Don, the legendary Don McLean, and see how he responds and if he gets along with Corey. You're not going to want to miss this. It's all coming up next on our playlist, Artist Rewind, and you're watching Artists on Record now with ADIKA Live. Don't touch that dial, kids. Bam.
Long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile.
We're very honored to have you here today, so welcome.
Well, thank you, and it's I hope I can handle all the questions coming at me from everybody, but I'm ready, and I have my own coffee cup here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yay! Oh, Mighty Mouse.
Mighty
My
Mouse.
childhood.
So Don, let me ask you something personal. What's your favorite coffee? What's your favorite coffee?
Well, I get this cold coffee. It's Starbucks, dark roast.
Mm-hmm.
And I have about half an inch of it in the cup, and that's all I have. I don't have any more than that because, it raises everything, blood pressure, eye pressure, all kinds of stuff. But it's a good starter.
Yeah. So you just do one cup? Is it one cup?
No, just about an inch is all.
Really?
Yeah, that's all.
That's it, huh? I think I have an espresso machine, and I'm going all day long. But I'm nuts. So there you go. Okay. So
well,
I
have that little coffee, and then I go over to the vodka. So that's how I do it.
That's this is great. This is great. Don, 50 years, American Pie.
Yes,
wow,
it's unbelievable.
So bye, Miss American Pie.
It is. It probably seems like yesterday to you, right?
No, not to me, but to a lot of people. It's life, but when you've lived in my life, I've had an amazing life. I just really can't even begin to detail so many adventures and trips to so many thousands of places and the millions and millions of people that I've performed for and money that I've earned, enormous amounts of money and all this stuff. And who would ever have imagined? Because I really didn't go out there and plan it. I just, I was ready for it though when it happened. That's something that, so I love Brooke Benton. He's a great singer, and he was being interviewed somewhere. And he said, you have to be ready. If you're lucky enough in this business to get a hit record, you have to be ready for it. And so I did a lot of work, underground in the 1960s, playing all kinds of places. And by the time I had hits, I was ready. I knew how to perform on stage and like that.
When you were writing that song, did you have any idea it would become that song, or was it just any song?
Well, you have to remember something, that back in the 1970s and late 60s, you had songs like Good Vibrations and The Day in the Life, and you had these epic albums made, and nobody had ever made that kind of music before. So, you know, we were in the vanguard of something brand new, and it's never been repeated, nor will it ever be repeated. So there'll never be another song like American Pie. It'll never happen. And it was a moment, you know, when a lot of creativity was around, and both in the studio and in the record companies who recognized art and wanted to promote pop art, you know, whether it was the Beach Boys or, you know, even lesser known artists like Laura Nyro and people like that, Tim Hardin, you know, they had lots of chances because they were beloved, and people knew how much talent they had. So we'll never hear music like that anymore. It'll never come back.
That's kind of what the song's about. I mean, and I remember at the time when you were doing radio interviews and stuff like that, you left the lyrics very open-ended in terms of their meaning and who they were written about. It was assumed widely that it was about Buddy Holly, and that the jester who stole the king's starting crown was Bob Dylan stealing.
I've always talked about the opening songs being about Buddy Holly, but if I'd wanted to say Dylan, I would have said Dylan. If I'd wanted to say Elvis, I would have said Elvis. You know, I said the king because the king had his thorny crown stolen. The only king that wore a thorny crown was Christ.
Oh, and while the king was looking down, the jester stole his thorny crown.
So each of these so-called understandable factors in the song are meant to be many different things, because the song is a dream, and it's painted in a kind of lyric that is like an imaginary lyric. It's not meant to be specific. I could have very easily made it specific.
It's also autobiographical too, right?
That's for sure. Yes. I mean, I weave myself in there all the time. I had a lot of fun writing this song once I had the idea, you know, and I never knew that it would be what it became. But the main thing was that it had to become a record. It was a very long song, you know, and there are versions of me singing it with the guitar. In fact, there's a #1 video, which has been for 5 weeks now on the country charts, of me and this group called Home Free doing the song a cappella. And the video is #1.
Wow.
So,
awesome.
And that's 50 years later, and it's right on time with this celebration of this album coming out, because the album is the thing we're really talking about. It's got Vincent and Crossroads and Winterwood and Babylon and all these songs. This is what the real experience of listening to that song, American Pie, is to listen to the album. But, anyway, so just to say that, you know, and also everything was a lot harder to do. So making records was hard to do. You know, you had to perform perfectly, and you had to be in there and do 20 or 30 takes, and nobody had to, if any mistakes, you know, you started over. And so you learn to be a recording artist. Listen sometime to there's some Everly Brothers things on YouTube where they're doing different takes. You know, one of them I think is Till I Kiss You. And they get stopped all the time. Oh, start again. Such and such was out of tune. You know, you can't even hear it. So that's what it was. It was people who really were very, very excellent at what they did, and not a bunch of technology making somebody sound good who isn't and doesn't.
I like that part when you're hearing all the roughs and mix, and you take one, take two, or, you know, even when you go back and listen to outtakes of, for example, Jane the Americans, and you'd hear the outtakes of all that great stuff. And I love it. Take two, Marty. You know,
sometimes the outtakes are better than the original that you heard. You know, something's going on and they didn't like it, but it's really very good.
Oh, incredible. You hear outtakes of the Beatles. Yes, it is. And there's an outtake of that song, for example, which is fantastic, better than the recording one. You know,
I heard the Beatles voices just isolated from If I Fell.
Oh, wow.
and that's fun, because it has a wonderful sense of harmony. And they've got several on me out there. One of them is Just American Pie, the piano track.
The music died. I started singing.
Who were the piano players on those tracks? You
There
recall?
might have been 3 or 4 actually, but I know that in the central part there was Paul Griffin that made the song rock. But in the slow parts in front, those could have been 2 guys spliced together. I'm not quite sure about that. My producer loved piano, and I loved it too, and so he knew he really knew all the great ones that were in the city.
What about when you wrote the lyrics? When you're writing it, because the lyrics are there lyrics that you wish, or should I put this in now? I'm going to take that. Did you have a battle with yourself?
No. The tough part, the beginning of the song happened all in one go. I sang it right into the tape recorder, and I write songs. I sing the words at the same time. It's as if I want to tell you something and I sing in poetry and the melody happens all at once. So this happened from a long, long time ago, right to the day the music died, into the tape recorder. And I said to myself, what the heck was that? Because I'd been very much into Buddy Holly and his plane crash and this event. It had affected me very deeply as a kid. I was 13, I guess, or 14. I carried it with me, and would eventually ask Phil Everly when I was at Newport in 1969. The Everlys were there. They just killed the crowd. It was probably one of the greatest. And a man landed on the moon at the same time on that weekend. So it was, you can imagine what it was like.
Yeah.
So many stars made their debut at Van Morrison and James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, the Everly brothers were there. Ike Everly was there. Muddy Waters was there. I mean, just go on and on and on. I mean, I was lucky enough to be there. And I walked up to Phil Everly and I said, I know you were really good friends with Buddy Holly. What, like I was a kid. I said, well, what happened? And he looked at me so sweetly, because he was a sweet guy. And he said, well, Buddy had to go ahead to do his laundry. And that changed everything. That one thing that he said to me started this. My mind is different from a lot of people's. I'll hold on to things for years and I won't use it until I'm ready to. So all of a sudden I saw a guy in a miserable tour, doing it for the money, trying to start his life over with a new wife and a baby on the way to take this tour. And he's just freezing in this plane. He's got to get ahead of this thing for just for a few hours, because he was singing every single night. So he was just going to gain only about 3 or 4 hours by flying. And that's 3 or 4 hours he was going to be in the laundromat.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I had this person, and I fell in love with him all over again. And it started percolating in the back of my head. And then I found out that this guy named Henry, who worked at the Manny's music store, was Buddy Holly's best man. I knew Henry very well, but I didn't know that about him. So I asked him, are you Buddy's best man? Yeah, I was. He used to come in here all the time when he lived in New York and so on. So all of a sudden, this person, anyway, the thing just came out full blown. And then I found this crazy chorus because I wanted to write a rock and roll song. And then I created a rock dream. That's what I did, basically.
I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widowed bride.
Obviously, you've met Buddy's widow, Maria, and probably have you met like Waylon Jennings? Has he told you stories about that night and other people?
Yeah, I've met everybody. I met Donna. I've met Peggy Sue. I know Maria Elena. I met all the Holly family. I knew Mrs. Holly. I knew Waylon Jennings. Everybody, Johnny Cash, you name him, I knew him.
And they were all, I imagine, very appreciative that your song is part of what carries the legacy of Buddy Holly forward. For people who don't know that music, they know yours.
Well, I'll tell you how that worked. I got a letter from a man named John Goldrosen, who wrote the book called The Buddy Holly Story. And this was about 1972 or 3. He wrote me this letter. and he said, until American Pie came out, nobody was interested in a book about a dead rock and roll star. After the song, I immediately got a publisher for this book. The book became the script for the movie. I then had, several years later, but Gary Busey and the director and producer of the movie come to my dressing room, and they came in, they sat down. I said, "Hi, boys, nice to see you." And Busey said, "No, we just came here to tell you we're making this movie called The Buddy Holly Story, and it would never have been made without your song."
The Buddy Holly Story. You'll be laughing, crying, singing, and stomping your feet.
Made without your song.
So Gary Busey's impact on pop culture is your fault.
So you see, American Pie is what really caused it all to happen.
Wow. To see more of this episode unedited, unfiltered, check us out on Patreon. That episode will be showing there. And make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell to be reminded so you don't miss any other episodes. Until then, everybody, we'll see you later. Now get out of here, crazy kids. And remember, it's only rock and roll. We like it. Who loves you, baby? We do. Mwah! Bam!
Awesome. So, have you has any of the Beatles ever complimented you on the song? Have you met them maybe backstage at the Grammys?
No, I've never met the Beatles. I've never met them.